Welcome to the Firecatcher Report. My name is Omotaya and I'm so glad you're here. Now, today I want to share 5 tips or 5 different stages in the creative process. These points will basically give you what to think about when creating your marketing strategy or your personal work strategy, or even when trying to figure out how to position yourself so that you can be more effective with the work that you're doing and the reason why you've decided to do this specific kind of work. Because we all know that creative work is not necessarily the most lucrative when it comes to finances, but it has the potential to be one of the most impactful areas, and it can also be one of the most fulfilling ways to work. Now, the first one is money. Figure out what your key goal is for being in this creative space. Are you here because you want to earn money primarily, or are you here because you want to express yourself? It's so important to be honest with yourself about why you want to create, because this is one of the first things that will give you clarity on what your approach is going to be further down the line in your career. The second thing is, what is the function of your creative piece or your creative work? Now, creativity for some people is kind of like an adornment on top of something more practical. So, for instance, if you look at the advertising industry, advertising is creative, it uses creative expressions, but the purpose is to sell a product. However, there's another way of expressing creativity where you have an internal desire to capture a feeling or a thought in a creative piece. And so it is the expression of self that drives the purpose of your creativity and your creative work. And of course, that leads to the third point to think about, which is positioning for your customers. If you're going the route of being a craft, arts focused creative, then the way you'll attract your customers is by expressing yourself. If you're a painter, for instance, but you're motivated by like emotions and thought and connecting to the other person, then you build and attract your customer base by creating, experimenting, expressing yourself. You are kind of the center and the origin and the anchor point of how you're going to attract your customers. On the other hand, if you are more kind of business focused person, then you're likely to think of the customer and what do they need. So if you were a painter, you might think, oh, people are moving into their homes. Maybe they want a painting of a flower. Maybe they want a painting of the landscape, but you're creating your work because you're targeting specific needs of customers. So when it comes to positioning yourself for customers, the person who is crafting the art from a soul kind of personal, intimate connection place, you might struggle with not attracting a large volume of customers. But don't worry about that, because every single customer they get would be so dedicated, so loyal, because they connect deeply with the same thing that the creator is trying to express. But on the other hand, the person who is more kind of functional in their approach, then you will have a large pool of people. However, you would have to compete with different people who are not necessarily creatives. You just have to be a bit more adaptable. And that brings us to the fourth thing, which is the method of practice. And I've already alluded to it from the previous points that we've talked about. One person is going to be hustling actively and asking friends to recommend them and going up and down to events and networking things and trying to position themselves as an industry expert and basically conducting themselves almost like any other business person, not specific to a creative space. It's almost like you're selling something just the same way anybody else is selling something. And so your method of practice is the same as any other business person. But the other person, the more personal, artsy person's process is more internal. So you'll find yourself battling a lot of internal emotions because these are the things that fuel your inspiration. So when you're in a place of sadness, you might end up writing sad music. You might end up doing a sad painting. You might end up writing a sad poem, a sad story. And it is in that emotional place that you are the most authentic. And so wallowing in your emotions is actually a good thing in a way, in a manner of speaking, because it can fuel your work. And it is that work that then attracts your customers. And so, for that kind of creative person, you might beat yourself up a lot. You might feel like you're failing a lot. You might feel like you're behind a lot. The key is to channel every single emotion that you're feeling into your creativity, because that's what drives you. Now, if somebody who is more focused on the business structure and process tries to be more deep and emotional, it might not flow, it might not click. You might feel like you're faking it. And at the same time, if somebody who is more in tune with their emotions to create their art is trying to be more structured because everyone around you is saying, snap out of it, be sharp, you have to wake up, it won't work. It will be such a struggle. And so, if you're more of an emotional creator, it's very important to find a management team, a person that you can trust who can think about the business part so that you don't go hungry. And if you're not at the point where you can hire a manager, or if you can be signed by a label or some other kind of management group, it might be worth thinking about a few of your friends around you who seem to be quite enterprising, quite social, who network a lot, and kind of getting them to informally be like your manager and reach out to people on your behalf and try to help interpret what might seem like a corporate brief into something that can be more artsy, something that can fit with your authentic creative core. And if you're someone who is more business focused, to the point where you might feel a little bit like you're losing your grip on your creativity, you might be getting a bit tired and feeling like you're not, you're losing your spark. It might be worth partnering with somebody who is more creative, getting like a creative director who can help you kind of root you back in the core of your creative practice so that you still have an authentic creative edge and you don't lose yourself just pursuing the business. And the fifth is, what is the more inner personal driving purpose? A lot of people have very pressing, practical, external pressures that drive the purpose for which they're doing their work. Maybe you need to take care of your sick parents. Maybe you need to send money home for someone who's going to school. Maybe you need a roof over your head. Maybe you just have pressing needs and responsibilities, and that is your motivation. That kind of external pressure has a way of almost clarifying your path for you. But sometimes it turns you against what you would have liked, what you would have preferred. What I mean is, for instance, if you're someone who is more creative in the sense of this internal personal connection with your craft, but then you have this external pressure of having to put food on the table, it might be frustrating for you because you end up doing the business route, even though you would rather be doing the self expressive route. However, because you have this external driving purpose, you feel like you have no choice. What I'll say to someone like that is, have a goal, maybe a certain amount of money in mind, or maybe it's in the 3 years while your brother or your sister is in school. Take that time and have a goal for yourself that once you've fulfilled your obligations up to a point, you will go into the more self expressive form of your creativity. On the other hand, there are the people who are driven by an internal, almost spiritual need to connect, maybe to inspire, to heal, all those kinds of internal processes. That is actually a really deep anchor, and people who have those kinds of purposes are normally really deeply rooted. However, you still have to pay attention to your needs, which goes back to the previous point. You might still need a team, someone who's trusted, who is external from you, to keep you kind of on track and to continue to help you remember that as much as you need to take this time to do these things, if there are needs that you have, you still need to be able to accommodate those. However, you need someone who believes in your purpose as much as you do, because they can keep you on track even when you start to feel like you're just wasting time, you're not doing anything with your life, they are the ones who can remind you that there is a deeper purpose and there's a reason why you're going through this process. They can serve as an anchor to continue to encourage you. Sometimes for creatives like that, and I can be like that myself, I start to feel like I'm just wasting time. But what happens after maybe a period of 3 months or 6 months or even a year later, when I look back, I realize that all those different steps in the process were the things that I can then put into, I don't know, my writing or the things that I create. And then all of a sudden, it connects more authentically with the people I'm sharing it with because they can see and they can believe and trust that I went through that process. And so, even though going through it, it felt like I was wasting time, on the other side of it, it ends up being the thing that makes my work more authentic. I'll give a sort of brief case study using makeup. So, if we look at the makeup industry in Nigeria, there are two major pioneers of the industry, Banke Meshida and Tara Fela-Durotoye. Now, the two of them started off doing makeup for their friends, enjoying the process of beautifying women. But as they went in their careers, you can see two distinct paths. Banke Meshida appears to be the kind of person who enjoys the craft, the process of makeup. And so she has continued to be the person you would hire to actually paint your face for your event. So what has happened is with her reputation, her pricing has gone higher. So she's been able to increase her pricing, earn more, and probably have a build a bit of a team around her, but she's still the talent. She's the core of her makeup services. On the other hand, there's Tara Fela-Durotoye, who again started off being the person doing the makeup herself, but she ended up building a makeup business, training other women on how to do makeup and branching out to brands of her own. Both of them have different paths. Now, it's very important as a creative person to determine which one do you want to be. Do you take so much pleasure in the craft itself of your creative work? Or are you more geared toward building a business and expanding? Banke Meshida is immaculate with the makeup she does. Tara Fela-Durotoye is immaculate with the business structures that she builds. What motivates you? Don't forget to fill in the creator database. The idea with that is to eventually create this community where different creators are categorized, and when opportunities come up, I can send them to specific different groups. Sometimes not everyone wants to receive all the content all the time. They don't want all the emails and all the alerts. And so it'll be nice to know the different kinds of people and the different skills that are in this community, and then I can tailor different messages to different people specifically. Let me know if this helped. Let me know if you want more content like this. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.